So, guys, I want us to do a quick update on this story of Mthethwa because there's been some few developments. You know what I mean? There's been some few developments with the story. You remember on Tuesday, it was reported that the family of Mthethwa would receive the autopsy result. And I remember that this is the story that we did on SABC. So this is a quick recap, guys, because I want us to get to what is happening in France today. The family of South Africa's late ambassador to France, Mthethwa, is expected to receive the results of his autopsy by Tuesday at latest. The 50-year-old diplomat died last week after falling from the 22nd floor of a hotel in the French capital. His death has sparked widespread shock and speculation, with French authorities treating it as a suspected suicide, though investigations remain ongoing. The autopsy is seen as a critical step not only for the investigation but also for the repatriation of his remains to South Africa. The Department of International Relations says it is working closely with the family to ensure a dignified return and burial. The family seeks answers around his death in France. So now we are learning, guys, that apparently the French police or the French authorities have pushed back on the South Africa's government plan to send the investigators into France. No, they are saying we don't want these people to come to France, and allegedly only one investigator will be permitted to go to France. And this guy is not going to do any work, but he will go into the meeting with the French authorities. And I must say that I find this thing to be quite suspicious, because if there's no foul play, why would the French police actually push back on the plan to send our investigators to try to find out what happened with Ambassador Mthethwa? Don't you guys find it a bit strange?
The family of the late South African ambassador Mthethwa has confirmed that his body will be flown back to South Africa this evening. They held a prayer service for him yesterday ahead of the planned repatriation. Mthethwa died last week after falling from the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Regency Hotel. Newsroom Africa correspondent Simon Marks has been closely following the story and joins us now live from the French capital with an update. Simon, good morning to you. It's a big day, but still many questions prevail around whether we'll ever get the answers.
And guys, it's so crazy that with all of these reportings, we still do not know what happened with Ambassador Mthethwa. I find it quite strange that with everything that has been reported, we still cannot paint a picture and say this is exactly what happened with Mthethwa.
French capital with an update. Simon, good morning to you. It's a big day, but still many questions prevail around whether we'll ever get the answers about how Mthethwa died on the morning ahead of his repatriation to South Africa.
Absolutely, Iman. I mean, and just within the last few minutes, a member of the French public walking past me here asked me who I was reporting for, and I explained it was for Newsroom Africa, and he understood that it was all about the death of the ambassador, and he said to me, it's very suspicious. I mean, this is going to be the day that the family has coveted for the last 9 days. They have been desperate, I think it's fair to say, to move the remains of the ambassador out of the French capital and repatriate them to South Africa. They will get that opportunity in about 14 hours' time. The ambassador's casket will be boarded earlier in the day onto Air France Flight 990, which leaves here at about 9:10 this evening. That's the same time in South Africa, 9:10 Johannesburg time this evening, and makes the overnight journey back to Johannesburg. Yesterday, there was a prayer service that was held for the ambassador because his casket had been released by the government mortuary where the autopsy and post-mortem were being conducted. And it was a deeply moving and affecting occasion, an opportunity for the ambassador's family, including his son, who had arrived here from South Africa yesterday morning, along with his colleagues from the embassy, fellow diplomats, and of course family friends, to pay their tribute and their last respects to Mthethwa. And at that gathering, there were also many expressions of a complete failure to understand why he would have taken the tragic act of deciding to end his own life.
It because it does not make any sense. Any logical person does not think that Nathi Mthethwa committed a suicide. I don't think that there are people that actually, like deep down in their hearts, believes that Nathi Mthethwa committed a suicide. So I'm not surprised that this is a reaction. I'm not surprised. But the fact that our ambassador in France can actually die and us not know what actually happened, it is shocking, man. It is shocking, man. I mean, like, if this thing had happened to an ambassador of another country, those people, man, would be burning things down, trying to find out what happened with the ambassador. But guys, do you see the effort from the South African government to actually try to understand what is happening and to give South Africans a clarity with what happened with Nathi Mthethwa? Because I don't. I don't. Now, South Africans are relying on the media reports because there are no official statements coming from anywhere.
Here at the Paris Hyatt Regency Hotel. Today, we think family members will be coming to this hotel in order to engage in the fetching the spirit rite that needs to take place before Nathi Mthethwa's remains can finally be returned to South Africa. That's the sort of the last formality, if you like, as the family then prepares to head to Charles de Gaulle Airport for the repatriation. And while we may never see the outcome of the French autopsy that has now been finished, because there's no guarantee it will ever be made public, it's also now apparent that there is not going to be a muscular South African police service investigation here in Paris after the French seem to have pushed back the government's plan to send 5 senior investigators here.
But why would the French authorities do that, man? Why would the French authorities do that? Can somebody please try to give me a bit of clarity? Guys, please come in the comment sections. I'm trying to understand what is happening. Why would the French police push back on this idea of sending the SAPS investigators to try to find out what actually happened with Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa? And I hear that he is also saying that we might actually not see this autopsy, but does it mean that even the family of Nathi Mthethwa might not see this autopsy, or they are in possession of this autopsy? It's just that it cannot be made public. And again, man, if you are not going to make this thing public, I understand that it is a very sensitive issue, but like, people will keep talking about this thing. People will keep talking. And the only way to shut people down is by giving them the truth.
Ever be made public. It's also now apparent that there is not going to be a muscular South African police service investigation here in Paris after the French seem to have pushed back the government's plan to send 5 senior investigators here. Only one is going to be travelling here, and only for a meeting with French investigators. There's no sense any longer that the South African police, at least on the streets of Paris, are going to be launching their own investigation. So after 9 days of this, since the ambassador's body was discovered by a security guard here at the Hyatt Regency Hotel, there are still as many questions over why he seems to have decided to kill himself.
He didn't.
As there are answers.
Simon, if I may, and it's interesting because we know that we have, public access to information, the Public Access to Information Act in South Africa, which, serves the desire of what might be in the public interest in a case like this to understand what happened, what the results of the autopsy or the post-mortem are, to provide those clues as to his final moments and what went on here. As some people speculate, these are suspicious circumstances. Do you know what the French equivalent might be and whether that can actually be done? Whether anyone will ever have access, including the family, to that ultimate autopsy report?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and I looked into it yesterday. I had a meeting yesterday with a veteran colleague and friend of mine who lives here in Paris and has reported here for over 20 years. There is no French equivalent of any kind of Freedom of Information Act, certainly as far as the autopsy is concerned. the autopsy that has been conducted by the French authorities, that report will be furnished to the magistrate overseeing the investigation and the case that was created when Nathi Mthethwa died here just over a week ago. The family, through their legal representatives, can then ask the magistrate to release the autopsy report to them. But the magistrate just over a week ago. The family, through their legal representatives, can then ask the magistrate to release the autopsy report to them, but the magistrate is not required to do that, and certainly the magistrate is not required to furnish the autopsy to anybody else who writes to what they have here, this Institute Legal Medical that they have here, and says, I'd like to see that autopsy report. So there is no immediate process for learning necessarily what French pathologists gleaned when they were able to conduct that autopsy and post-mortem. But of course, it is possible that once the ambassador's body is repatriated to South Africa, some degree of further investigation may be able to occur.
But if these people will not allow our investigators into France, what actually makes... They are not even going to give us the autopsy. They're not going to give the autopsy. So it looks like there's a lot that South Africans are not being told with the story, guys. This is what I've been saying ever since this news broke out, that there's a lot that we are not being told as the people of this country. There's a lot. There's a lot. And now it becomes even more suspicious. No autopsy results. No autopsy results. And no South African investigators to France. I don't know, guys. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Please tell me what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the like button and the most important part. Subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Guys, it's hot, man. Make sure you are hydrated.